Thing runs like ass. What the f? Jump in this thing and see what it'll do.
Ready to rock this, bro?
Oh, hell yeah. What's up, guys? Made it back home in one piece with our brand new racing cars. Yep, it was 2 trips back to back to grab the street stock and the late model. Now, you might be wondering, why did I buy this? Is a Mopar. You know how rare Mopar circle track cars are nowadays? Because if it's not a Chevy, the aftermarket world is really not there. And then also, in some classes, you are penalized if you do not run a GM car. Like, normally these cars have spoilers on them. Well, if you don't run the GM crate motor, you have to remove your spoiler. Or anything other than a GM crate motor is considered an open motor. So even if you had a Mopar that was built to the rules, to the specs, it's considered an open motor. The Mopars are very far and few between. And when I was picking up this guy, or went to go look at it, I was like, hey, what's with this? I was like, that's kind of cool. It's got like a Challenger nose on it. You know, I have some cool aftermarket panel. I actually can't say aftermarket, they're homemade. The fenders are aluminum, the doors are aluminum, the quarter panels are aluminum, the nose is plastic, the hood is fiberglass, the whole deck is aluminum, aluminum spoiler, aluminum tail panel. So you know this car's got to be pretty light. And I was looking inside of it, and this car was actually built really well. Like, so the guy I got it from was not the original builder. You can tell he had kind of hacked out a bar to drop the seat, which I wouldn't have done that. I would have just redid the bar. There's a few things that, you know, have kind of made the car go a little downhill, but easily fixable. And yes, this Mopar does, in fact, have a Mopar power plant. Oh, and that guy's here. Say what's up, Derek.
Hey, what's up?
We got 3 words out of him today. What else do you want to tell the peoples, Derek?
Not much.
All right, let's get this hood off. It's kind of dirty, it's kind of grungy, kind of had a little bit of hackery work done to it. I mean, you got wires draped over control arms, you got mix match plug wires on it that don't really belong or fit this engine. Oh, we got exposed. Oh, that wasn't even on the plug boots. So we've got some hackery going on here. Ooh, look at that. We got a GM HEI distributor. So, and I do know that so the HEI GM type distributors for the Mopars, they make 2 types. They make the really chitty, crappy Amazon, eBay, Temu wannabe distributors that are like $67 with free shipping. And that is one of those. I can tell because it has like the billet base to it. Super crappy distributor. So that is going to have to be, maybe we can just get different guts for it. But you know what? It does have some good stuff. You know, they've got the lower control arms box, they got good shocks on it, and I noticed this. Someone else had the same idea I did. They got ball joint drop brackets on it to fix some of the geometry issues. So, whoever was building this car must have had some Mopar wizardry and suspension. We got a Borgeson steering box on it, and this is a LA 360, but it has Magnum heads on it. So I'm pretty sure these are like race prepped Magnum heads, but they're not like fully ported, because typically in street stocks you're not allowed to port the cylinder heads. You can go like 1 inch in, which they consider, you know, port matching to the intake manifold, but you're not allowed to fully port the heads. So I'm assuming those heads are fairly stockish, minus valve train, maybe some rockers, and just very minimal 1 inch port matching. We got a good power steering pump on it. You know, we got a good water pump on it. Ooh, let's see what kind of carburetor we got on here. I haven't even looked at that. See, pretty sure it's a 2-barrel, because, well, actually, yeah, it is. So you're not, in street stocks, you have to run a 2-barrel carburetor. And we have the 2-barrel with, you know, a good adapter play. That might even be the Super Suck. Ooh, made in USA. Oh, that's a VDL. Is it? That's a real VDL. That's a high dollar freaking 2-barrel. So what VDL does, I've had VDLs. 15 years ago, I bought my first used VDL, and it was $900 for a used one 15 years ago. I don't know. I'm just kind of nice to knowing it has a VDL on it. So at least this makes up for this. Ooh, we got some, it rained here for like an entire day. But I don't see any signs of wetness being in there, so I just see wetness right here. So we'll go ahead and get that out of there. It's a gooder car. It's got good suspension on it. Hopefully it's got a good engine in it. And it is a real torsion bar Mopar. It is a leaf spring car. It is a tree pedal car. And we're going to race it in 3rd gear, which 3rd gear is 1-to-1. Let's check out the suspension. It has a Ford 9-inch rear end in it. Oh, what's that? We got a shock hanging down? I think so. I don't know if that shock is bolted on. Holy crap, look at the freaking ride height blocks on this sucker. We're definitely gonna have to change that, Derek. We do not need that much ride height block. See, and that kind of makes me realize some of the problems that this guy had. So this guy said he couldn't get it to turn. He wasn't super Mopar knowledgeable, and his excuse was torsion bars and just couldn't get it to turn as good as his Camaro. Well, being he's got that much ride height blocks, oh yeah, so that's no gooders. Yeah, so being he's got that much ride height block, what it does is there's an invisible rear roll center on a leaf spring car. That's the leaf spring pad is actually your roll center, where the axle bolts to the pad. And so if you put ride height blocks in there, your leaf springs get lower and lower and lower to the ground. Your axle goes up and up and up to the body. Well, what happens is it lowers your roll center. It makes it to where the ass of the car doesn't want to help the front end rotate. It wants to go straight. So we can fix that. What we'll do is we'll flip the front hangers, raise the ride height, or get rid of some ride height block. And then the front end needs more camber. This side needs more camber towards positive, because it looks like it actually has a little bit of negative camber in it, which we don't want. And there's still plenty of adjustment there to pull that control arm out. So I guess first thing first. Oh, and he said he stopped driving it because he did like a hydraulic conversion on the clutch, and he didn't shim the throwout bearing right, and so the clutch engagement's not correct. So we're gonna have to pull the transmission out, re-shim the throwout bearing, and then all of that should be gooder, hopefully. All right, let's see if we can't get this thing to fire up. I know it's out of gas, so I went and got gas. Oh, it looks like it's got gas in it. I don't know. Let's see how much gas is in it. So the fuel cell looked like it had a little bit of fuel in it. I mean, looked like it was about 2.5, 3 inches maybe. So I would think that would be good enough to suck from. But when we fired it up at that guy's house, which it wasn't really running that well, hopefully we can find out why. I figured it was just maybe hopefully running out of gas, but. Okay, so I'm gonna pump the fuel cell full of air. We're gonna stick a bottle on that, see if we get any fuel coming out of this thing. Because if we don't, and it's got that much fuel in it, that means you gotta take the top of the fuel cell apart and figure out what's wrong with the pickup part of the fuel cell. Here we go. All right, Derek, see if we got anything coming out of there.
Yeah, you do.
You do?
Yep. Oh, tons of fuel.
So Derek was in fact wrong upon inspection of myself. Go ahead and hit it, Derek. Look at this.
I just saw fuel come out, but I can't get enough.
Well, yeah, but it's mostly air. If it was good, it'd be a solid stream. Go ahead, hit it. See, that's just barely spitting fuel and mostly air. All right, Derek, stop. So, there is, in fact, something wrong with the pickup on this fuel cell. Gonna have to look into that in a minute, but we're gonna go ahead and clean that first. But we still need to put fuel in it. So that rear shock was loose too, so rear shock. So I've been making a punch list of things we gotta fix that I know. So fuel cell plug wires, because they're all junk. I just went and looked at them. They're all dry rot, old garbage, burnt. Distributor, I don't trust that distributor. We're gonna look into that. Seat belts, I need to flip the front hangers. I got some trickery we're gonna do to the front suspension. Need to figure out what gear's in this thing. Probably have to change the gear. Move the weight because the guy couldn't get the car to turn center out, so he put lead on the right side because that freed it up. But yeah, you don't want to do that. So we're gonna fix the rear suspension, put the weight back. We're gonna remove the fire extinguisher because that's weight on the right side. And Mike is gonna be the one racing this thing. So I'm gonna race the late model. My buddy Mike is gonna race this the same weekend as Matt's. And since Mike is racing it, we don't really care. So we're gonna remove the fire extinguisher and put some more left side weight. Fix the seat bar, fix the throwout bearing, rear shock. So we got lots to do to this thing. And one of the first is, so I know the fuel cell's got issues, but we need to get some racing gas in it so we can at least get it fired up and see what other issues we're gonna have. That's good here. Battery, check. See, we need to make a parts run to the local speed shop on this thing. So I just want to get it fired up and see what things we're all gonna need before we go there and make one trip out of it instead of multiple. So, and if you guys don't know, these zinc bottles make great carburetor filler uppers. All right. Think it's gonna do anything, Derek?
It might.
It will. I've heard this thing run before, so. But will it run good? The accelerator pump not do anything? Oh, there it goes. Okay. Oh, yeah. Duh. Master switch on. You think it's my first time? Thing runs like ass. You missing a tube sock here? It seems like every time. Oh, it's got a Torker 2 340 intake manifold on it. That's cool. But anyways, so every time I touch somebody else's engine, I always find they never have enough timing in it. So I'm thinking it just doesn't have enough timing in it. We'll look into the distributor in a minute, but let's go ahead and we'll get it fired up. we'll just raise the idle a little bit. You want to do the honors and press that button, Derek? Starter button. Go ahead and show the camera where the button's at and push it. See how the RPM just shot right up, putting some timing in it? Why? So this guy probably has centrifugal advance in this distributor, which you don't even need that crap on a circle track car. But if it does, we're gonna minimize the centrifugal advance on it, so that way it's easier to start, but doesn't throw as much on the mechanical advance. That way we start with more timing, and then so I want like 25 at idle, and then probably like 35 at RPM. So we're going to take the distributor apart. We don't even need to go any farther. We know there's some issues with this. So before we even mess with this, we need to fix this. What the shit is... wasn't even bolted down. Oh wait, it was bolted down. It's got plastic freaking screws that hold the rotor down. Are you freaking kidding me? Holy, look how much throw that's got. What the? Oh, that's why it didn't have any timing in it. Look at that, Derek. Because it had plastic screws in it, the tang on the cap was bent over. So it retarded itself. Wow, that is stupid. We're gonna fix that. So we're gonna have to we're just gonna yank this distributor out. And this car does not have a rev limiter in it, and I like rev limiters. I like to throw gear at them and then just let them go pop, 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 pop at the end of the straightaway. So that way you get all the out of the hole action, and then the rev limiter actually kind of helps you on corner entry. So it keeps you from over driving it, but also gets you out the hole real good. Wow, these centrifugal advances are just sitting on, they overlap each other. What the hell is this garbage? This thing's a piece of shit. All right, so we know that's gotta come out. All these plug wires gotta come off. There is some major hackery going on here. Look at this crap. Even the button in there is all freaking chewed up. Probably from that thing flopping around, but that is just worn. Everything about this garbage. So I don't want to get any of this debris inside the engine, so we're gonna actually, it'll be a smart idea, Derek, if we push this thing over there and pressure wash it, because then everything will be clean. Let's do that. We'll just use the starter motor. So I was in fact wrong. One of the rare times I'm wrong. This is not one of those Amazon distributors. This is actually a modified homemade distributor. I can see that they had, wait. Ah, that's why. thought I was gonna be able to take a shortcut, but I just noticed something that is not good. Ungooder. Gotta pull a distributor, Derek. I just noticed something. So, remember that tube sock that I threw at you, Derek, that you could have saved for later? I think I found the reason why that was back there. Hold. So, this looks like a homemade distributor. You can see they had TIG welded like a GM HEI top to a Mopar base, but it looks like we have here not good sealage. There's a hole there, and I can see that's where oil was running out of. They had this all siliconed up, and then I thought I saw a crack. Did I in fact see a crack, or was that an optical illusion? So we're going to clean all this silicone off, and then we're going to finish welding what somebody else had done because they pinholed and missed a spot. So being I got a weld on this thing, I got to take the distributor all apart because there's magnets in there, and magnets, when they get hot, they lose their magneticity. I guess that's what you would say. And so I need to take everything apart out of here, even including the O-ring, just so I can weld on this housing. And I even marked it where everything's at, so. But take all the guts out. I'm just trying to burn all the freaking oil out of it right now. See? So while the distributor is cooling off, I'm just gonna let it air cool. We're gonna go ahead and start figuring out some things on the rear axle. For one, we need to figure out what gear's in this thing. So I've marked, or actually where the barcode is on the tire, and I have marked on the pinion. I'm going to see how many times the pinion rotates versus one revolution of the tire. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, that's like a 650 gear, which is not gonna work for us at the bull ring, which is where we're taking this thing. We need to get this to either like a 583 or a 60, so this gear's got to come out. And then we got to fix this dangly shock mount. And then Derek is going to get under here and pull all these unneeded brackets and stuff off, shed some weight, and we're going to take this lead off that's right above the camera and bring it back over to the left side. It's plug wire time. And I just went ahead and set my cap down here. So while my distributor is cooling down, I can make my plug wires. Oh, this car does not make a very good bench. So this distributor had way too much mechanical advance. This thing had like 25 degrees of mechanical advance, it looked like. So what I did, see, this is the slot that the mechanical advance would have used. But you can see now it's only using maybe a third of it, because I welded up 2/3 of it here, so that way I have less mechanical advance. So what you do is you have to have, you have more initial timing. So this thing will probably come in at like 25 at idle, and then it will go to about I want it 35. So even if it's 28, 35, still way better. I just wanted a little less timing for that cranking startup. So that felt like a compression stroke. Now I can aim the pointer at number uno and start bolting all the ignition system back together. We're gonna have the first fire with our new upgraded distributor, welded up distributor, recurved mechanical advanced distributor, wires, cap, rotor distributor. Let's kick it over. Do you think Derek will fire off first start?
It might, yeah.
Or not. Come on. Not getting anything. It helps
Yeah,
when you run the power wire to the distributor. That usually helps. Okay. Ready? All right, yeah. Now we're in business. I'm going to clock my wires one over so that way I don't have to have. I'm just going to rotate all my wires one terminal over. Morning! It's another beautiful day here in Las Vegas. It's still technically winter time, but it is gonna be like mid-60s today, sunny, beautiful, and I got my new seat bracket that I made. Actually, I drew it up and then took it over to my buddy's place and he cut it out with his plasma and bent it for me. But this will work perfectly as my new seat brace. To get this sucker bolted down, make the lower seat bracket, and actually have something to sit into in this car. Actually, you know what? Before I mount the seat, probably should fix the steering column and that pedal assembly because they are. Did you guys see this crap? Look at this. See, they got They got way too many universals in this steering shaft, and it's doing like the hula dance there. So I think we're going to eliminate this universal and just solid shaft that. And then when I was hitting the brake pedal, I noticed my freaking pedals. Oh, that's another thing. There's no brakes. But this whole pedal assembly right here was bowing down. So I'm gonna run a gusset brace from here to there. Actually, that's not even. Oh man, who booger welded that? All right, we'll have to redo some thunking on that whole thing. But I have a seat bracket now. Look at the snake on this thing. There we go. See, this is a collapsible column. So we don't need these universals. Plus, they didn't mount them correctly. They put the universal in the middle. Oh, well, that just simplified things a lot. Now I can do it outside the car. Yeah, before I actually put the steering column back in, I'm like, you know, probably should go ahead and finish up the seat so that way we can set the seat in it, and then I can set the steering column to where I will actually be sitting in the seat. See, smart tanking I is sometimes. Oh yeah, I got all kinds of room to whip the steering wheel around now, and it's not flopping all over the place like it was before. So now I just need to burn it in place. That's better. Oh, that feels much better. The steering wheel doesn't wiggle side to side. The seat is mounted nicely and strong, way stronger than it was before. The master cylinder on the firewall is now rigid because I added an extra brace. So everything is more betters. And I can actually knock some things off my checklist. Now to knock more out, including putting a bolt in my rearview mirror. They just have it held on with a zip tie. Are you serial? So that's 80. Gotta burn an inch. That's 79. He's not going to be on any NASCAR team. What's up, guys? It is another day, and I just, kind of off camera, just testing things and not even realizing I was making progress. We now have an alternator. So that's an alternator off of a buddy's race car that he wasn't using no more. And I was like, well, let me just see if it'll fit. And I didn't have to do anything. Like, that's a small block Chevy bracketry, and it literally bolted to the engine and lined up with the pulley. And I was like, yes, no modifications whatsoever. All I had to do was run a power cable over to my relay, because that's a one-wire alternator. And now, with just simply hooking up a belt, we now have a charging system. Now we gotta go to the back of the car. With our OSHA approved jack stand setup, which we're lacking pavement here, and need to get the ass end up in the air so we can pull the gear and fix the rear suspension. There's nothing broken on it, but fix somebody else's idea of what they thought would work. That much ride height block will not work, especially over there. So with a leaf spring car, the pad surface that the axle, the leaf spring perch, where that touches the leaf spring, that is the roll center of the car. That's the rear roll center that helps the car rotate. And when you run ride height blocks, that lowers that leaf spring pad closer to the pavement, closer to the pavement, closer to the pavement, to where now the ass end doesn't want to help the front end roll, the roll center, and so the car becomes tight. And this guy was complaining this car was tight. One, because he had the wheel offsets all the way to get left side weight. He had a 1-inch offset wheel on the right side, and he had a 4-inch offset wheel on the left side. So basically that added left side weight to the rear axle, which left side's gonna make it tight. So I changed the wheel offset on the left side, also added a spacer, and then changed the wheel S offset on the right side, added a spacer. So at least now I have some wiggle room to adjust my wheel offsets and get some, take some drive away from the left rear or add to the left rear. How I'm going to fix my ride height issue without, raking the car a mile in the air is, see these leaf spring pads here? Well, they haven't flipped them yet. So if I take this leaf spring hanger and I flip it upside down, offset the bolt holes, well, now this is going to be sitting up here, which will also raise the center of the leaf spring up a little bit, so I can take away some of these ride height blocks. That's one solid one, but I can take away some block, so then it will raise the roll center. So, end result, fixed wheel offsets and raised roll center will help this sucker rotate through the corner. Holy crap. That thing full of fucking lead? This thing's full of freaking lead. What the? This is one of those things that makes you think, who the hell does this? This thing is entirely full of molten lead. They melted lead inside this guy because I guess they thought it would be some kind of trick way to get left side weight down low. But here's where the stupidity kicks in. This is unsprung weight. This only works good on tractors and tractor pullers. You want sprung weight, which is weight that's on the body, not unsprung. Unsprung is like the dead weight of the axle. That's why you want to have the axle as light as possible. You want to have an aluminum third member, which is illegal in this class, but you want to have an aluminum third member. You want to have lightweight shocks. You want to have lightweight calipers, rotors, axles, everything. It is dumb to pile weight on top of that. I mean, look at this. That's heavy. Now, I need to readjust the angle of the dangle on this this is the leaf spring perch, which was adjustable. It's a clamp-on deal, so you have top shell and bottom shell, but they had welded it on very crappily, I might add, in some areas. So I need to cut those welds loose and re-clock it, because now the leaf spring is further up on the front side because I flipped it, and so when this goes up, it tilts the leaf spring. So now I need to re-clock my my perch. Grinding, cutting, welding, and I still got the other side to do, and then we still got to pull the gear out. Let's pick this chunk back up. So this is a 3-inch block. I just raised that 3 inches. So to try and keep my ride heights the same, that going up 3 inches at the axle is about 1.5 inches. So digging through my crap, I found 1.5 inch ride height block. This is an adjustable one, so you can adjust the rear steer by adjusting on those the nuts on either end. It'll actually bring this forward or back, but we're just going to go ahead and center this guy up and slap it in there. So then I'm not actually changing the ride heights in all of this work. I'm just changing the roll center of the rear end, trying to get rid of the block but keep the axle or keep the rear ride heights the same, just changing the physical roll center of the car. It'll work, I think. I hope. Several hours later, I did not realize today was Friday. Tomorrow is practice. So cutting things short, welding up or tack welding a brace on the suspension so I can get the late model out of the way. We're gonna go ahead and get this guy on the pavement, or well, concrete, so I can swap the gear, and I need to pull the transmission, re-shim the throwout bearing. And then we need to get on the scales and mount lead on this thing, because tomorrow at noon is practice day. I went ahead and fixed everything on this side, flipped the hanger. That side already had the holes oblong. This side didn't, so I had to oblong the holes on the hanger and then get all this set up. We had to completely clean this whole rear brake because they didn't have an axle seal. They didn't have an inner axle seal. So all the gear oil from the rear end comes out, gets slung around in here, escapes the O-ring all over the brakes. Of course, I still don't have an axle seal, but you know what? We cleaned it all up. I threw some more grease in the bearings and siliconed it up, and we're going to run it again like that. Only because I have to. I'll order a seal. And hopefully it'll be here. Oh yeah, it'll be here way before the actual race. So that's a 650 gear. We pulled the 583 spool out of the Ford Modified. So again, the Modified just keeps on giving with donor parts. It is later. Derek and I are now under the duster. Derek's pulling the rear gear out. I already went and popped the axles and drained it for him, and I'm working on the transmission. Problem with the transmission, one, the shift linkage is not adjusted properly at all. Like, it gets stuck in gears, it's hard to pull it in and out. And is that loose? Just so many things I see. Anyways, not only is the shift linkage not adjusted right, well, for one, the transmission wasn't even bolted to the cross member, but the biggest problem I have with the transmission is, so the throwout bearing in there, they didn't shim it properly, and they didn't even use the right shims. Like, look, okay, that's like spring loaded or in reverse. So this is being a hydraulic, I'm not supposed to be able to do this. So it's not adjusted right. It's not pushing on the fingers all the way so I can actually put it in gear. Like, the clutch will drag if I start it in gear. Got all kinds of crap inside there. So I'm gonna have to pull the transmission out, readjust it, stab it back in, change the gear, adjust the camber, set the weights, get it on the scales, adjust the wedge. Then we can go practicing tomorrow. See what happens when you buy somebody else's junk. Derek, you still have a freaking nut on here.
I didn't. Oh.
Dumbass. Down. Okay. Push it under. Hold it. Keep going. Good morning. Well, we got some things accomplished last night. We got the gear swapped, which that's all done. And the battery died in the middle of the gear swap. And then, not wanting to be out here till like 1 in the morning, we didn't even bother recording anything. We just went ahead, dropped the exhaust, pulled the transmission, threw an extra shim on there, stabbed it back in, and I don't like it. I would like to redo their whole throwout bearing setup, but to save time, and I believe the throwout bearing is going to work good enough to at least allow me to get it in gear, that I'm okay with it right now. What I'm not okay with is we bled the rear brakes, and we were like, all right, we got brakes. And then we moved it onto the concrete, tried to hit the brake pedal again, and went to the floor. So then we're like, what the hell? And as Derek is sitting there pumping it, I'm watching brake fluid come out of right there. So whatever cheesy brake bias this is, you know, Amazon special, does not work. So luckily I had botted a brand new one, Willwood one, for the 69 Charger, and now I have to buy another one because this one needs to go in here. That one's in. I was calling buddies to help me come over and bleed the brakes, but then I forgot that I had bought this doohickey, which is a vacuum bleeder, and I don't have to rely on anybody showing up to help me do this. So this makes it most awesomer. Bleed. All right, guys, it's on the scales. Scales were zeroed out, dropped down, and you know you're working up a sweat when it's only like 68 degrees outside. So I have got with me in it, which I have weight chunks inside the car to simulate my weight. We're at 2910, which the car needs to be 3,100 freaking pounds. So we've got to add almost 200 pounds to this freaking car. Now, this is the left side weight. We're allowed a maximum 55%. And since I need to add weight, guess where we're going to put it? We're going to put it right here on the left rear to try and raise that number. Because if we go to our cross is only 46.8. So without playing with the weight jacks or anything yet, we're going to go ahead and place weight on the car to see if I can bump that number up. And also, oops, there, and also bump that number up. And also bump that number up. There's a ton of lead in this thing now, and I'm still not at the minimum weight, but I'm thinking we're going to go ahead and practice with that anyway, because I don't feel like adding a ton of weight. But we did increase the number here. Our cross weight didn't really change too much, but our left side, look, our left side's 55.1, so 55% maximum. Just put your helmet and lay your arm over on the right side. That'll get rid of that 0.1. I need to find a way to mount all that lead in the car, and I need to raise the cross. So we're going to throw a couple turns in the right front torsion bar to raise that number, which in turn will drop that number and drop that number, because we're stealing weight from these two to add to these two. All right, so after playing with the ride heights, well, the torsion bars, my cross is now 50.7, which I'm gonna give that a good starting point. I don't really know this car. My left, 55.3, which that's okay, I can cheat that. My rear, 45.6. I would like more, but being this has an iron transmission, and actually I can add another 50 pounds to the back of this car. So that number, I could probably get up to 47, 48%. But for right now, we're gonna practice with this. And after adjusting everything, my sway bar, let me see if you can get a look at here. There you go, upside down. See, my sway bar's got a little bit of play in it. So we're just gonna neutral that out. Just get it to where the sway bar lightly kisses the control arm, and then we can use the sway bar as a tuning tool. If it's a little loose, we can put preload in the sway bar to tighten it up, or vice versa. So we'll go ahead and see where that's at now. Like I said, we just want it to barely kiss it. Yep, we're here, only 2 hours late, but you know what, I'll at least get to feel the car out, make sure it's not gonna do anything stupid for when we throw Mike in it. Maybe even do some tweaks to see if I can get it to handle better, or get it to my liking, because that guy's not gonna know what he wants to feel. So, the line is short right now, I'm gonna jump in. I belong to.
Go ahead.
All right. only flat on the bottom side. But I'm glad we took this thing out and practiced because I learned a few things. One, the Mopar upper control arms, no matter how hard I tighten that caster bolt, when I hit the when I hit the rumble strips, it actually pushed that control arm in. And that right front tire went down, obviously. Luckily, I caught that before I hit the corner. Something didn't feel right, so I backed off early and pulled off the track, dragging the front end. But this thing hauls ass. I made some minor adjustments after that first run. Loosened the sway bar, quarter of a turn, took a pound of air out of the right front, took a pound of air out of the left rear to put a little more stagger in it. And the thing came alive. It was on the rev limiter a lot longer on the backstretch. So instead of whoop, up, up, it was like whoop, up, 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 and then went into the corner. So I got to put a right front tire on it, fix the caster, fix the control arm, and load it on the trailer because we're done. And there's Walter. Hey. So you're really not supposed to do this, but I did it anyway because this tire was pretty decent and I didn't want to go buy one. I plugged it. My plug came out. Don't do that. Do as I say, not as I do. Alrighty, fellers. It's the next day. Car is unloaded. It's semi in the backyard, almost all the way in the backyard. Oh yeah. This is one of my new go-to choices right here. The Mango Blue Moon. It's actually pretty good. Race car. So I'm really glad that I actually got to run that Saturday practice, which that's just an open practice day. There's no race the following day. It was just a beginning of the year open practice. And it gave me the opportunity to get some bad things figured out, but also get the car dialed in. And this thing ripped. Like right off the trailer, this car was really good. Just minor tweaking it needed. You know, I took a quarter turn out of the sway bar, changed the stagger hardly with just a pound of air out of the left rear, pound of air out of the right front, and the car just got even better. And I could tell by the G-force meter on my neck on how much the G's were pulling over that the car went faster, and I can tell by the rev limiter. So the first session, down the backstretch, it was just whoop, pop, pop, and then into the corner. I just barely hit the rev limiter. The second session, after making those few changes, it was actually like whoop, pop, 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 boom, and then into the corner. So when you're on the rev limiter longer, that meant you went through the corner faster and had more straightaway speed, so it was able to hit the chip longer. Which, hey, the chip is always a good tuning tool on knowing how fast you're going. But the bads, okay, for one, the shift linkage in this thing is just all kinds of fuckered up. Like needs to be fixed. The throwout bearing still does not work correctly. I cannot start the car, or I cannot have the car running, push the clutch pedal, and then put it into gear. It just will not go. I have to put it into gear, start the car. The clutch is, the pressure plate is dragging ever so slightly on the clutch disc that it won't allow me to put it in gear from a stop. So rather annoying. And I think that might just be something. And plus, who the hell runs a hard line from the master cylinder all the way down to the throwout bearing? Anyways, so if I push the clutch pedal, it'll go all the way to the floor and stop. So it could just be something as simple as maybe just changing the pivot point on the master cylinder, maybe pulling it down a ½ inch so I get a little bit more leverage on it, or a little bit more travel, or just extending the pedal out farther. You know, I don't want the pedal out super far, but we'll try just extending it, you know, just an 1/8 inch. It's where, like, literally all it needs is just that tiny, like if the firewall was a 1/4 inch farther away, it would probably depress the clutch all the way, or it would probably release the clutch disc all the way. Anyway, so I'll have to figure that out. Next problem is I need to get a actual plug that will clip onto here and hold the power wire to the distributor, because this is what fell off that first session. And so I kind of tweaked the tab and pushed it on there so it stuck better. The alternator overcharges, so I had to disconnect it just so I could run the car. So I ordered another alternator. And then another biggie was this entire inner fender, and all right here was soaked in oil. There was oil splatter all over the windshield, down the fenders, everything, because oil was coming out the dipstick tube. So that does not seal very well, and I'm gonna have to find a way to seal that up better so we don't lose all of our oilage, because that's like the blood of the engine. If we lose all the blood of the engine, then the engine will die just like we will. Another big thing that I figured out, and see, this is all good because on race day, if you're trying to figure all this crap out, it is a pain in the ass. And this is one that we probably wouldn't have been able to fix at the track and just had to deal with it. But see where this eccentric bolt is at right here, the adjuster for the upper control arm? Well, that second session, I just drove over the rumble strips on the inside of the track just below the white line, and that pushed the control arm in and actually rotated that eccentric to where I lost all my positive camber on that tire. So I'm going to have to tack weld, hence that's why the welder's out. I'm going to tack weld my eccentric bolts, or actually just the eccentric washer, just a simple little quick tack on the frame rail or the shock tower to the bolt, so that way that won't happen again. The caster felt perfectly fine, so I'm just going to leave the caster where it's at, and because you don't want that to happen, because if that control arm moves in, well, now all your geometry's messed up. You just probably gained, you know, a ½ inch of toe out, and you lost your camber, and just no buenos. So tack weld fixes that issue. Alternator, oil, or stop it from bleeding out the dipstick hole, dipstick tube. What did I say before? Pickup? I don't remember. Anyways, dipstick tube was leaking. Other than that, it ran cool, and probably need to get a better battery in this thing, because when everything was at temperature, that 600 amp Walmart battery did not cut it. Other than that, though, thing was a rocket. And like, if I was going to race this thing all year long, I would probably end up putting like a slightly stiffer right rear leaf spring in it, because I feel there's more mid corner speed I could gain with a slightly stiffer right rear spring. Even if it's only 1 mile an hour, that 1 mile an hour is well worth it. You know how many NASCAR teams spend millions of dollars to try and gain 1 mile per hour? See, all of that stuff, especially the testing, tuning, and dialing it in, everything, I'm trying to make the car dummy proof. Because guess what? We're throwing a dummy in it. Yep, the first race of the year, my buddy Mike up in North Dakota, he's going to race this thing. So, and he may even take it home, I don't know. We'll have to figure that out. Maybe I want to keep it and rent it out. Who knows? And if you are going to be in town in Vegas, March 7th through the 9th, Matt's at the Speedway here in Las Vegas, big autocross drag race car show event is happening the same weekend as we are racing at the same complex. Literally, you could walk over from the autocross to the bullring where we're going to be racing this and this. I really wish I could have taken that out to practice, but it's nowhere near ready. This one, however, will be a good car for the first race of the year. And Mike at least has a chance now of being able to finish last, because he's that slow. Time for welding. Very minimal. Curiosity is getting to me. I'm going to see if just lengthening that push rod will in fact fix my throwout bearing issue. Now if I can start it and put it in gear, it's fixed. genius. Alrighty guys, well that's two things knocked off the list. Tack welding up those eccentric bolts, and then I got my clutch pedal to fully disengage on my flywheel and my pressure plate. So now I can actually not have to start it in gear to go anywhere, because it's a major pain in the ass and an inconvenience. But hopefully I can get the rest of the things fixed on the list in order to throw a dummy in it, and we'll see how good Mike does at the first race of the year, which is also during Matt's. So this is March 8th at the Bull Ring, where we're going to be racing this car and the late model, which I'll be driving that one. And I may look like a dummy in that one. That car hasn't seen the racetrack in over 10 years, and so I've got to go through the setup, change things, get the motor dialed in, and hopefully I can make it as good as this one. So stay tuned for that one. That'll be next time you see these two cars. This is the crappy part about having a race car, is getting in and out. When you were younger, it was the cool part, but as you get older, it's the crappy part. Yeah, I'm a dumbass. Nobody really wants to buy race cars, or you don't sell a 68 Charger and then take that money and roll it into a race car. That is the opposite of a smart decision, but I like racing. Restoring cars is cool, but racing is so much more fun.